Hello, Laura here. I'm in Ontario, Canada, Zone 4A. I have a food time and gardening channel. This is going to be talking about food, and probably I'm directing it at the older people in the room, because who looks at cookbooks anymore with the age of the internet and the highway that you could go anywhere in the world, type into Google or any other browser and find what you want to find. Oh my goodness, you go to Pinterest. I get lost in Pinterest. Yes, I do. I go wanting to look for something to cook, and I wind up hours later, too late to cook it, and I wind up with hot dogs. Yes, but Pinterest is a wonderful thing. Now that that intro is out of the way, this type of video/blog is going to be centered around my cookbooks. Since 1976, when I was first married at 18, I started collecting cookbooks. And the first one was Betty Crocker's cookbook. I still have it, and oh my, you could tell I used it. And there's nothing nicer than a cookbook that's got splatters and coffee rings and grease spots over it. Every time I see the pages that have that, it makes me smile, because the pages that are clear, I obviously wasn't interested in cooking from those. Back then in 1976, folks, we didn't have cookbooks on the internet. We didn't have Pinterest. We didn't have recipes from other people other than written on a small index card, which we filed in a plastic box. Okay, folks, you remember the index cards? Yeah, we would write recipes on there. And the box had dividers that we could write in there, vegetables, cakes, desserts, meats, seafoods, etc., etc. I have 2 of those boxes that are filled with recipes. And also, we used to cut out recipes from the newspaper, from magazines. Yes, we did. And I would either copy them onto the index card, or I would tape them onto the index card, depending on how large the item was that I cut out of the magazine. Okay, so this particular cookbook I want to start with, because only reason is I pulled it out from the basement when I was looking for something else, and I ran across it. My husband and my young son, who was 19 months old at the time, we went on a summer vacation from Ontario, and we drove to Maine on our way to Fredericton, New Brunswick. My husband owned a camp there. It was located by a brook that the salmon would run up the brook. It didn't have running water. You had to run down the rocky cliffside with a bucket to get the water. And it had an outhouse that always contained a big family of spiders. Every time you sat down, they wanted to just drop between your legs. Yes, indeedy, folks. I came launched out of that outhouse, showing the world parts of me I did not want to see. But luckily, it was in the deep woods, and one time his father was there painting the back of the cabin. He turned, took note, and turned right back to his painting, and we never said another word about it. That's my memory of that trip. But get back to the cookbook. This particular cookbook is called Country Innkeepers Cookbook. And like I said, I picked it up while we were traveling in Maine. And I made a note inside the cookbook. If we traveled or I was on a special outing, I always made a note inside the cookbook as to when it was purchased, why it was purchased, when and where it was purchased, which is sort of nice to go back when you run into them and read what you wrote decades prior. I wrote Maine was so beautiful. Actually, I have no idea what Maine looked like. When we got there, it was in June of 1986. It was so foggy we couldn't see 5 feet in front of us. So we really couldn't see Maine. All we could see was 5 feet in front of us. We went to a restaurant that was on the water. We couldn't even see the water. We could hear the water, but we couldn't see it. So if Stephen King was around and we were in his vicinity, we would have never seen him. And then I decided to smile, because I thought, oh, how funny. He can hide in plain sight. Famous person, you'd never know he was there. But we did enjoy a wonderful, or I did, lobster dinner. That I could see and that I could taste. So that was fine. Okay, now, there was something written inside this cookbook, just below the introduction of it. They talk about compatibility, and I wanted to read this to you. You're not in this world very long before you realize that, due to kismet, charm, or charisma, you get along much better with some people than others. Isn't that the truth, folks? Hence, the success of many relationships where the proper rapport is present and the dismal failure where it isn't. Dismal. Okay, if I could read, I would be like smart in a fifth grader. And the dismal failure where it isn't. So it is with food. Some foods go together well, others not at all. And the specific merits of each dish have nothing to do with it. Ham and eggs, pork and beans, macaroni and cheese, gin and vermouth. What magic is created here? Why are these unions so great? Who knows? But it certainly behooves all of us to seek the many wonders of taste togetherness. I just love that, taste togetherness. Think about it for a moment, folks, if you feel like pondering. That must exist, but remain as yet undiscovered. Remember, we eat with our eyes first, so a plate of food, when set on the table, should look as appealing as possible. That has always been my goal, to have food look appealing, because I guess I eat with my eyes. If it looks inviting, can't wait to dig in. You might even begin with the plate itself. It should be neutral in color and design. If too busy, it will fight with the food. Now, can't you just see fisticuffs happening between the plate and your chicken dinner? Plate with pictures or complicated designs belong on a plate rail or in a china cabinet, or they should be used only as service plates. As for the food itself, aim for colorful combinations happily. The more colors, the more nutrition. Wasn't that nice of Mother Nature? Consider texture too. The way food feels in the mouth is as important as the way they look and taste. So utilize the crunch of lightly done carrots, the roly-poly feel of peas, the floury tickle of broccoli, and vary the way you cut your vegetables. I often do that, folks. I cut them straight across, I cut them lengthwise, horizontally, diagonally, all kinds of diced, chopped, whatever. I do that all. Serve them whole, half, diced, diamond-shaped. Do all you can do to keep up appearances. Combination of textures is another way to add interest, and the possibilities are infinite. The addition of a few raw, crisp vegetables does a lot for cottage cheese. Aren't nuts and croutons good in a salad? And raisins and dates in hot cereal? Ice cream is a universal favorite. So is hot apple pie. But aren't they great together? And aren't they tangy chunks of pineapple and gelatin more interested than soft, bland slices of banana? So you can tell the age of this cookbook when they talk about pineapple and gelatin. Lime green gelatin. My aunt used to make that all the time in Iowa. She used to be a cook at the elementary school in Grand Junction, Iowa. Now, can't you picture Grand Junction, Iowa? Sounds like a TV show, like Petticoat Junction. Now, that's for the older set. Who remembers Petticoat Junction? To
the junction.
Petticoat Junction.
There's a little hotel called the Shady Rest at the junction.
Okay, so in the interest of good taste, make sure everything you serve goes well together. That's just a little tidbit I wanted to read to you. Sorry it came off a little bit longer than I expected, but I kept going because even I found that little bit of the introduction very interesting. And sometimes, we need to... Memories are great. In the past, we always say, the past was better than, it is the good old days, we used to say. Now, but they weren't always good. There were failures. Have you ever had aspic? Yeah. No, I don't want that. No. But there were things that just didn't work. And there were some weird combinations that happened in the 70s. And I don't know if it was all the martinis people were drinking. I wasn't a drinker, so I really didn't have weird stuff going on, but there was some weird stuff. And I have some really strange cookbooks